the education crisis. What would you say are some of the country challenges regarding this? What's failing?
Oh, it's difficult to pinpoint, and I think that's the problem, because it is a system breakdown. It's not one thing, and it can't be attributed to even a handful of things. All of these things play a role together and are integrated. So I think teacher development is perhaps a very big issue. Teachers have been scapegoated in the crisis, and I think they need support. They've been wounded in this, and they're about to go through another curriculum change that's going to be difficult for them. So they're going to need a lot of help and support. I think that school leadership is where a lot of the different NTOs are now putting their focus, because they realize that dysfunction in school happens from the top, and that's where some support and expertise is needed. There's finally an acknowledgement that education starts at early childhood development.
Of course.
And I think that's been a success in the last few years, where people are starting to recognize that. So that's important. I think there's a lot of complexity around ICT in schools. I think some people see it as the answer, and there's a lot that needs to happen in the school in terms of functionality before they're ready for that kind of intervention. So people need to be smart about how they invest in ICT. Bridge wrote a very interesting research paper on that. So those are a handful of the things that I think are major or key areas that need focus, but obviously there's much more. And I think parental and community engagement are things that I would be promoting more, where parents need to realize that they're there for their children. They're consumers, and they can complain, and they can stand up for the rights of their children. And they need to find a voice in schools. And I think that the sector has something to offer parents in terms of helping them do that. And the communities can also see schools as an asset, and we need to start turning that around for schools to be more sustainable and to grow.
I did an interview some time ago with a gentleman who is into entrepreneurship, and he was saying that the education system, South Africa's education system, is very industrious. We're not training young people to be innovators and free thinkers. Would you say that we need to look around in terms of how we change the curriculum? Because it has been changed so much, but it seems like it's not doing much.
Yeah, I think there's pros and cons to all of these changes. So for me, they're written by McKinsey, that looks at narrowing the gap between education and career. And I think there are organizations like Go for Goals that are focused on the construction industry that are narrowing that gap, being able to have those conversations between industry and curriculum. And I think that's where we need to go. I think we need to be able to have the conversations between academia and curriculum, so that we're starting to inform the curriculum differently. I think they've always been seen as separate, and part of narrowing the unemployment issue is to produce learners that are ready for the workplace. So those conversations need to be had, and I think industry has an important role to play in designing the curriculum, and needs to stand up and say what they need, and the sector needs to be responsive to that.
Interesting. And then in people who are interested in some of your training, can they do it directly, or you have to come via an organization?
It depends. We do have individuals that play a role, that come in as private people that want to get more involved, and we link them up with other organizations. I mean, it's very inclusive. The point is, all our sessions are free. We try and make them as accessible to people as possible. So it's about that collective impact, and we can't have collective impact if we're going to be exclusive, I suppose. But I'd really like to talk about the CEI project, if that's possible, to kind of move on to that, because this has been a very exciting part of Bridge's work, is linking to this global platform. So the idea behind it is that it was UK funding that was a station called Results for Development in Washington, D.C., who are now in charge of implementing. And what they've done is they've based it on, a few years ago they started a health market innovations website where they just started tracking all the best practice in health. And it's been really successful, and they realized they could do the same in education. Mm-hmm. So they've created hubs in developing countries, one in India, one in East Africa, and the UCT Graduate School of Business and Bridge are running the South Africa one. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And there's an online hub, and what we do is we profile organizations that are doing amazing work that's particularly innovative, but also scalable. I think that's a really important point around issues in the education crisis, that we need to take these things to scale, and how do we do that? So it's about showcasing the ones that are working, the ones that are able to replicate. And the idea around that is to then connect them. So can they be connected to each other to learn from one another? Or can they be connected to a similar project in India? Or can they be connected to individuals or funders or academics? So, just being able to give them a place to be identified and to identify the connections, I think, is really helpful. Mm-hmm. And then importantly, I think the other thing is some analysis work, because we really need to start to understand what's working and why. Mm. And we can learn so much from other developing countries. And I think what's important is, if you have a look on the website, some of the organizations we've already profiled in South Africa are doing amazing work, and we can share that. We may be in crisis. There are some people doing fabulous things, and we need to be proud of that and show the rest of the world that we're addressing what we can. So I think that's been helpful.
But how did that partnership come about?
So the Bertha Center in the Graduate School of Business is, in my opinion, the leading social innovation center in Africa. Mm-hmm. And it's headed up by Dr. Francois Benici, and they've been doing incredible work around social enterprise and social impact bonds and impact investing, and looking at various forms of social innovation that can solve social issues. So they really do have an incredible staff and credibility. And so they were identified by Results for Development in Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. They have links to Aston and have been doing wonderful work that's internationally recognized. And then when they were drilling into the work and figuring out how they were going to implement, they came across Bridge, because what Bridge is doing is what the hub aims to do, but on a micro level. So while the GSB was able to, and the Bertha Center were able to bring the sort of theoretical social innovation side of things and leverage the relationships internationally, Bridge could leverage the local relationships and help link the local context to what some of the more global things that Bertha was involved in. So that's where the partnerships come about, and it's been wonderful working with the team. Emma van der Vliet is heading up from Bertha's side, and we've just been at the Africa Education Week, where we did a stall and met with a lot of people and did a talk on collaboration.
And how has the response been like?
I think people are excited, because I think it's something positive that's looking forward. I think in the education crisis, people feel very overwhelmed by it and not really sure where to start. And I think the positivity of this project is it gives you somewhere to start. It shows you what's working, and it shows what can be taken to scale. So, in feeling overwhelmed, finding these kind of projects is, I think, helpful to funders as well, because they can see where the smart investment is. So that's where I think people are excited about being identified as best practice and showcasing the good work that's happening. So, for example, LEAP, maths and science schools have really on hundreds of children's lives and have gone on to build 6 different campuses around the country, including Gauteng and the Eastern Cape. So those kind of examples are giving people hope within the crisis. I think the response as well about it being global has been helpful. So people feeling like a sense of reassurance that other countries are facing similar challenges, and that we can export, if you like, some of our solutions as well. So that's been the main feedback really from people.
And funding being not an issue because you are well supported.
Well, I think we've got project money for the setting up of the hub, but I think what's important is to showcase that there are a number of NGOs that are doing amazing work that could do with, to take their projects to scale. So we would encourage funders to use the platform as a tool for identifying those kind of projects, because there is an element of quality assurance that they've been handpicked by us to be on the profile. So it gives them a different level of credibility, I think, for funders.
All right. Now, for people who want to be profiled, what is the procedure?
So the procedure really is if they go onto the website, I think they need to have a look and see what some of the other projects are doing, and get a sense of are they at that same level, and then to get in contact with us, and they can send us their annual reports and some background information. And what we would do is we would look at their information and weigh it up against some of the criteria that we're looking at. The next step is we would interview their CEO, cross-check some of their documentation, do a site visit, and really get to know the intricacies of the work. So, for example, what we're very careful about is it's not just a cut and paste exercise from the website. We actually go in and analyze their implementation strategies. So they would need to be open to that, and also for us to continue to update that information. So the project really has to be education focused. It needs to be innovative. It needs to be able to go to scale. So if it's small now, what steps would need to happen to make it have a greater reach? And we're not looking only at Cape Town. We're looking at national projects, urban, peri-urban. So it's not a geographical criteria, but we are looking for effectiveness and impact. So we would be looking at people's monitoring and evaluation, and they need to be able to evidence that they're reaching the people that they say they are.
Of course. What is the website?
It is www.educationinnovations.org.
Yes.
And that's it.
Okay. Educationinnovations.org.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Camilla, and sharing that information with the listeners. Sounds exciting. Hopefully, various organizations will take this opportunity and get to the showcase on the website.
And thank you for the opportunity. Lovely talking to you. Have a nice afternoon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that was Camilla Swart, coordinator of the Bridge Project in the Western Cape, joining us to talk project, which is part of the Center for Education Innovations, and this new center, they seek to novel solutions to South Africa's education crisis. If you want your organization to be featured on the Education Innovations website, go to www.educationinnovations.org, www.educationinnovations.org, or for more information about the bridge, go to www.bridge.org.za, www.bridge.org.za. It's time for me to love and leave you. We'll do this again tomorrow, focusing on gender issues. News will follow at 2 o'clock. After the news, Upas Montel will take over with it. But yet, have a fantastic afternoon. Till next time. Bye-bye.
Hello? Really? What? Hey, when are you lying? When? I want it, man. I want it too, man.
Spread the word. Vodacom.